First role was at BMO as like a customer service online banking rep, and I was making $35,000.
Wow.
Like, keep in mind, my debt is $36K.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Reni. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I really appreciate each and every one of you taking your time out of your busy day to watch this video. So on my channel, I do fashion, finance, lifestyle, and career, and today's video is about finance. We're going to be talking about debt repayment. So we just recorded an amazing video. It is a bit long, just forewarning, but we're talking about repaying OSAP debt. I have Tolu on my channel, Tolu of Hidden Net Wealth, and she actually paid $50,000 off in student loans in just 4 years. So it's a story you do not want to miss. I hope that you enjoy, and if you have any other video ideas, please leave them down below and I will get to them shortly.
Hi everybody, my name's Tolu. Thanks for having me on your channel.
So everyone, the reason that I brought Tolu on the channel is because I recently saw that she launched a Instagram page called Hidden Net Wealth, where she tells us about her net worth. And I saw that she paid off $50,000 in student loans in 4 years. And I was like, wow, because I know Tolu's doing big things. She has bought a property, she got married, all while paying off her $50,000 loan. So I was like, okay, I need to interview her and get beats on this and tell us about how you actually went to school, graduated, and paid off those student loans.
I started my undergraduate program at Carleton University. I'm originally from Toronto. That's where my family is. And, you know, when I was applying to school, I actually applied to schools everywhere. I applied to York in their business program and, you know, Waterloo and I think U of Ottawa as well. And I actually got into every single program that I applied to. I want to get away. Like, that was my focus. Like, I don't care what I have to do. Like, I have to get away. Keep in mind, money was not the focus. I'm at 16, 17. I'm not thinking of how am I going to afford this, you know, crazy, maybe $20,000, $30,000 every year payment, right? Mm-hmm. So when I got into the program, I was like, okay, it's a Bachelor of International Business program. I'm going to learn Chinese for a year, and I'm going to go to China. I was like, I don't care. First of all, I'm going to be a boss. Okay.
What else do you need, right?
Like, first, I'm going to speak Mandarin. Everyone's like, I'm going to own all the businesses. Like, this was my plan. I really didn't think of money, like, and that's kind of ridiculous just because I knew that my parents couldn't and weren't able to cover all of my tuition because I have siblings who were kind of close in age and also going to school. So my circumstances weren't going to allow for that. And my mom also really wanted me to stay in Toronto, but I got a scholarship at Carleton. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go. And so then I went, and then I realized that my tuition, the OSAP that I received in my first year covered my tuition, including my scholarship, but I still had living expenses, right? I had to pay for living on campus because I don't know anyone in Ottawa enough to be comfortable to stay, like, you know, in someone else's home. So living on campus, food, and all of those expenses. And keep in mind, my mom's already pissed that I'm going away from home. Like, so I was like, I'm doing this by myself. Like, I'm going to be great. So, you know, like, there's that little bit of pride in trying to figure it out by myself in the first year. So needless to say, my educational experience at Carleton was amazing, right? I met really great people, but I was also really stressed out about money. And the first year I realized, okay, I have a bunch of OSAP. Maybe it was more like 10,000. Like, I'd have to look at my records exactly. I didn't work full time, but I worked part time, right? So because I just couldn't, with how crazy my first year was, I couldn't. And in my first year, I also didn't do very well in school. Trying to balance the job plus like my school plus having kind of sort of a social life, really not really. It was just too much. It was really too much. And I obviously the peace of mind of having someone pay for everything, which is like either your parents or whatever, there's nothing like it. But not everyone is, you know, is born in those circumstances, right? But I think the important thing is to remember that that does not define where you'll end up at all. So after my first year, I was like, okay, I went back home. I think that summer, this is a great summer for me because I got a job at Wonderland, so I was making a little bit of money. So I was like, it was minimum wage was $10. So I worked 40 hours a week, $800 every 2 weeks, every single penny minus my transportation, and I would get Tim Hortons every morning. Like I had budgeted everything. Every single thing was gonna pay for my tuition for the next year.
So you were budgeting back in second year of university?
Because I didn't have, because I had looked at my account and how red it was in my first year. I was like, someone has to give, like I have to figure this out. At the end of first year, I had applied for a donship, like a residence fellow program, which is like, for those who don't know, it's where you live with students on campus. So either in the year below you, sometimes the same year, and it's just the way you have to run programs. And Carleton's great because they pay, actually most of them do, most universities do, they pay for your living expenses for that year, which for me was around $8,000. It was just like the biggest weight off my shoulders, right?
That's a lot of money, yeah.
A lot of money. And so then I had applied. So I was working at Wonderland. I saved up to like maybe $2,300 that summer. And I remember just like sending that money pretty much to tuition. And at the end of it, I still had a few thousand left to pay after OSAP, right? And at that point with school, which is at this point prepping to go away to China for my year of exchange, plus working on donship, it was just, I knew I needed to figure out how to make that little difference that I had, but I really could, I think I was really stuck that year. And I think my parents ended up coming through for me just because I really didn't have any choice, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people, you know, I've had to feel like I was fortunate in that circumstance where my parents could even help me, because some people end up doing some really messed up things to get through school because they don't feel like they have, you know, any choices, right? But there's also scholarships that you can apply for. I think I did that too. I did apply for a few scholarships, like, you know, a lot of like, especially being Black and being in finance, there were a lot of programs available to me. So I applied for a few scholarships here and there throughout my 4 years that really helped. Third year, I'm in China. So like, this wasn't a bad year. This was a good year because, well, my tuition's paid in Canadian dollars, right? So like, that's good. But all my expenses are in renminbi, which is like the Chinese currency. So my expenses were a lot lower than they were, 6 times lower technically, than they were before, like last year. So I already worked that summer, actually. I worked that summer.
Like a part-time job or a full-time?
I think it was part-time. I don't think I could even find a full-time co-op. And this is another thing, guys. Like, if you can get into a co-op program, do it. That was a good year for me financially, in the sense I was just like, my tuition was paid off because like, I think I had scholarships, and my OSAP was always good enough to just cover my tuition pretty much. Fourth year, I was really focused on school. Like, I don't even remember. And when I went back, I actually ended up living off campus. So I didn't do donship because I knew like I couldn't balance both. OSAP had racked up to, I think it was 36,000 at that point. Like, that was what I had left school with. But I was like, okay, cool, 36K in debt. I literally have no money. And I'm like, okay, I want to do a master's program. So I'm like, like, I'm broke and I'm trying to go to school to a master's program with no money. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take a year off. Like, I'm going to take a year off in the sense just to prep. Like, I had to write the GMATs for the school. Like, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to go to school, I want to go to a good school. Like, I want to come out being able to get a job that makes sense to set me up to pay off all these loans, right? Although I thought about money, I really did have a lot of faith that it was going to come through, because I really knew my purpose was like, this is not where I'm ending. Because to be frank with you, when I got out of school, as I was telling you earlier, my first role was at BMO as like a customer service online banking rep, and I was making $35,000.
Wow.
Like, keep in mind, my debt is 36K.
Yeah.
So, like, what's up? Like, and that didn't include tax, because they will tax you on your little $35,000. I wrote the GMATs, applied for these schools. Truly, at that point, the tuition was $52,000 for the year. Okay, and that was tuition alone. Okay, not include your living expenses. So what ended up happening, because you know how I did the donship in my second year, I actually just applied at York, and I got a donship role, which is amazing. So I ended up calling the student aid office the day after, like a couple of days after I calmed down, and I just said, you know, what are the options for scholarships for for students. They were like, oh, this is what it is right now. I think they were saying that they don't really have much available. I'd have to apply and see what I can get. So after talking, I don't even think I did anything online. So a couple of days later, I got an email from Shuling. I think they took a look at my records again, and I got I'd gotten up to $36,000 in scholarships.
What?
Like part of a lot of merit-based awards, just based on how I did in my application. So keep in mind, I told you guys, in my 3rd and 4th year, I had made sure to really bring my overall GPA up. That was all I was focused on. And so that really helped me with my scholarships. So 52 minus 36, right? So I had 16K left to pay. For me, that's light work, in my brain.
Okay.
No, compared to 52 in the grand scheme of
yeah.
I already had living down, right? They already gave me a donship.
Mm-hmm.
They give me 36K out of 52. In my brain, I'm like, this is doable. I don't know how, but it's doable. Keep in mind, I went to my undergrad with no money.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing for the rest of the 14K or so is I just took OSAP again.
Mm-hmm.
And that really covered everything.
Okay, so one thing I like about what you said was that you actually looked at all your resources, because I feel like some people, they just take out OSAP debt, but
Right.
they don't actually look there are lots of scholarships available. So many scholarships actually go unclaimed every year. I feel like there are a lot of options that people don't look into. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So when you graduated, what was the total OSAP that was?
Okay, so when I graduated, keeping in mind, I had paid off a little bit during that year that I worked, that year before school. It was 49,796.
Woo!
That was everything, including interest. Keep in mind, interest is growing, guys. You're not interest free. It's a free loan. Part of how I paid off my loans was I didn't care if I was making $100,000. I applied for their repayment assistance program every year. They denied me sometimes because that is dependent on your income every year. But when I was making 36K and then 50K at one point, that really helped, because what they did was I didn't have to pay my interest expense. And so what I did during that time was, so during my OSAP, in order to properly pay it off, I paid off, there was every single month at least $1,000 from the beginning of when I was. And
you have dedication, sis.
I mean, I don't even think I bought anything really nice for myself until I paid off my OSAP. I never was a buyer of things. And so that really did help. And now that I even have no debt, it's sort of a habit that's just lived in me. I don't like having too many things around me, just because I just realized why.
What's the point, right?
Right. But even if you do like shopping, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to even sound like that. There's nothing wrong with that, but take care of your debt first. So when I wasn't getting charged interest, let's say with my interest, I was doing 1,000. A portion of that would go into my interest and a portion with my principal. After that 1,000 is fully going towards my principal, meaning when they started 6 months later to start recharging the interest, I have paid down, let's say, 6K, or what I would do is, honestly, if I could double it a month, do 1,005 or 2,000 every month, so that now my debt is lowered by 10K. You know what I'm saying? 10 to 12K, and interest payment is a lot lower.
I know you kind of mentioned this before, but what is the smartest and fastest way to pay off your student loans? Because 4 years is very quick. I know people have $50,000, maybe 20 years they'll pay it off. It takes them a long time. So what is the smartest and fastest way to pay off that student loan?
Okay, so I would say, first of all, it's a mentality thing. Whatever you're making today, income-wise, you can have a budget that will work to pay off your OSAP. You really can, in a certain amount of time. So I put up in my page, if you guys get a chance to ever look at it, you're able to sort of play around to see, depending on how much you can throw into your loan, how fast you can pay it off. And it's a lot shorter than people think. Because I think in their minds, it's oh man, $600 a month is so much money. And it's just, I can't see myself doing it. But if you calculate how much you're probably spending on Starbucks every month, if you're that one guilty gift that you're getting yourself, if you can deny yourself a little bit, honestly, just that mentality of putting that first after your major expenses. So after your rent is paid, you know, if you have a car note, and this is why I say don't buy a new car. If you can buy something outright that is cheap, affordable, can get you from A to B and won't give you issues, do it, because then you won't have a car lease payment every month.
Yeah.
Right. And so after that, and then you have food, right? And food is honestly, food to me, I will do you, because that is just like, you need it, right? But if you can absolutely budget and pay off more. So with OSAP, they send you that letter, it's time to pay off your loan. They'll give you an amount you're supposed to pay every month based on your the interest rate and this allotted amount of time that OSAP has predetermined that you should pay your loan. What then I did was, so usually it's like $350. Really, like, you should be able to pay that off once you get a job. But don't let that be your yardstick. Like, if they're saying you can pay that off in 11 years, imagine if you can double your payment. Technically, you have to do the math. You can pay that off in half that time. You're already at 6 years.
And I want to ask you, how often does the interest compound? Because I think that's important. Is it a daily?
I believe it's OSAP is a daily compound.
Oof. Okay. So even if you could increase your payments to like twice a month instead of once a month, that would help.
Exactly. And which is what I did. I did mine on a bi-weekly basis. So every time I got paid, like, this money did not belong to me for 4 years. Like, when I started keeping my entire paycheck, it shook me that I was making this much, right? Like, I was just like, where's all of this money coming from? Like, you don't even know what to do with yourself. I was obsessed with my OSAP. Like, I would look at it consistently, see what they were charging me. If it didn't look right, they were getting a phone call, like, why is this not debited and credited properly?
That's important.
Yes.
Because these companies are not your friend, guys.
Nobody is your friend when it comes to your money, except
One question that we had was, is it advisable to take OSAP, or should I work full-time while going to school to pay my tuition?
So I think everyone's circumstances are a bit different. Okay. I think if you're in a program that is not as time consuming as a lot of like engineering, like if you're in an engineering program, do not work full time. Like, I'm just saying that, like, to me, just because the goal is to get a great job after, because I promise you, like, if you're focused enough, your OSAP will get paid off. You know what I mean? And you'll be able to make great money. Like, I know I started off with my first job being really crappy in like the 30Ks, but I make over triple that right now. And that's just because I made sure I was able to network and do what I had to do and get a great job. So it's not necessarily about just working full time. Don't be so focused on the short term. You really, like, yes, get a part-time job if you can. Maybe do something on campus. There's a lot of jobs on campus that you can do. To just at least cover your feeding. And don't use your OSAP. This is a big one. Don't use your OSAP to take trips. Like, guys, come on. This is life 101. Like, that is not free money. It seems like it is, but it's not.
So what is the interest rate on an OSAP, first of all? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So OSAP is a variable interest rate, and it's prime. Currently, it's prime plus 1%. And prime, for those who don't know, is just the prime lending rate that banks lend to each other. So it's just the prime interest rate, and based on how Canada as an economy is doing, they adjust that. I think prime is currently 2.3 or 2.5. So right now, like, your OSAP will be at 3.5%.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just wondering, so if there is that repayment or repayment program, or like the forgiveness program, is OSAP debt impacting your credit during this time? Like, is it?
So I think two things. To my understanding, and keep in mind, I knew nothing about my credit score until, like, I would say 2 years ago. So I didn't even know this. But I believe that what happens is that it does affect so not paying your OSAP is not cute, guys. Like, I know a friend of mine who'd be like, I'm just not going to pay my OSAP. What are they going to do? It's just going to be here. No, like, that is not a good thing.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, especially, like, I'm a part of a lot of like finance groups, and people are like, yeah, this is just a debt that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Like, I'm not going to care about it. It's just going to be there.
But it's not a good thing, because, like, for example, like, I was closing on a house recently and they had to pull my credit score. And if I messed up one when I was younger. Kudo, I used to have Kudo as my phone bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had that same mentality. I think I owe them money or something. Really not a lot. I think it was like $15. I just didn't want to pay it. And I just didn't have it. Like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And it's on my credit till today. Like
7 years, right?
The guy at the mortgage place is like, yeah, what is this? I'm like, I don't even know. I don't know what to tell you right now. But it really does affect whatever you want to do in life. Like, I think the idea of mediocrity in the terms of like that being your mentality about money, just, oh, like, since I don't have to do this, I'm not going to, is not the way to get ahead. It's just, it literally doesn't put you ahead of the curve. Like, I think it's your income and how much you make, it's not going to determine your wealth. That's just not it. It's how you plan your finances for 10 years from now. Like, just like your parents did. Are you putting an RESP in for your kids? Like, because I'm not trying to have my kids to be having the same conversation I am having.
Yes, you're right. And I like what you said about how your income right now does not dictate how rich you are, your net worth, because there are a lot of people who are doctors who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and their net worth is zero or negative. Oh. And then someone else asked, so if I have the funds to pay off my loan during my undergrad or during my university degree, should I do it or should I invest that money?
I'm not a certified financial planner, so I think it depends on everyone's circumstances. I think for me, if I had that money with my mindset then, I would have thought to pay it off. But knowing today now, I wouldn't have paid it off.
Yeah.
Why? Your OSAP interest rate is tax deductible. So you're actually able to claim that on your taxes, which is a great thing. Because I never told you guys, sorry, there's one more thing I want to add. In addition to my OSAP and my master's, I actually had a student line of credit as well. Because I'm like, I actually had money taken on that. So yeah, no, I was definitely more broke. I think my $49,000 includes my student line of credit. And the reason I even remembered is because that interest that I pay is not tax deductible. But your OSAP your OSAP is tax deductible, right?
But is all of it tax deductible or it's a tax credit? It's like part of the interest, right?
I think it's all of it. I really do. I think it's tax. I'm not a tax person, so I don't know.
I think it's a portion, because I spoke to an accountant a few weeks ago. I believe it's a portion of the interest, but still, like if the interest rate's only 3%, and then you can deduct part of that, and then the average returns in the stock market are 8% to 10%. You can probably make more money putting your money in the stock market.
For sure. Sure. And then that's a whole different investment conversation. Yeah. I would say if I had, let's say, $50,000 after my program, I probably would have put half. And this is just for me. I would have put half because I hate debt.
Yeah.
I would have then invested in a home. At that time when the Toronto market was hot, if I had $25,000, I would have definitely bought a house, like hands down. Like even if I couldn't buy one in the city, I would have gone to Brampton and bought something.
Literally, anywhere you bought it you'd be booming right now.
Money.
Yes.
So that's what I personally would have done if I had that money, and I didn't. But I think that if you have that money, so to answer your question, if you had that money after, definitely I don't think you should put all of it into your loans. I think speak to someone about great investments and how to do that properly, and let your work for you.
I know that you also purchased your first house a few years ago. So tell me, how did having $50,000 of OSAP debt did it hinder you from purchasing a house? Well, obviously it didn't because you have a house, but.
Well, I mean, the hindrance would be like, I wish I had done it faster. I've always been interested in buying homes. I think it's a big part of building wealth. Like I really do. I think the stock market's great, but I think just owning assets and properties and all of those things, I think is just the best way to do it. Sure.
Well, I think we answered all the questions that we had. And what I really liked was your mindset. I think that anyone who's looking to pay off their debt, it's all about the mindset that you have towards it. Because just as you said, people keep it for years and years and years, or you can be aggressive and pay it off immediately. So if anyone wants to connect with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, you can definitely connect with me at hidden.net.wealth. on Instagram, and that would definitely be the best place to see some things that I've posted and content, or just message me if you have general questions about OSAP or investing or anything else. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, guys. I have been loving her page, and she posts lots of great content. You can find out about her net worth or net wealth at the moment. And then you can also just lots of handy tips also about debt repayment if you need. So yeah, check out her page. I will link it in the description box below. So thank you, Tolu, once again for being on my channel. I appreciate your time.
This is fun. Thank you for having me.